What keeps you going? What keeps you motivated?
I continue to love a challenge. I've never been more creatively fed in lending as a loan officer because no loan is the same. And I've been doing it long enough now that I've done multiple loans for the same people, and even their loans aren't the same. And there's always a challenge, so it keeps me on my toes.
Amy, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Chris. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, let's just dive right into this. So you've been in this business for over 30 years. I know sometimes for me, sometimes it's hard to believe, but
Right.
true. Let's take a few steps back. I want to go back to the beginning. How did you get into this industry?
Well, I actually started in real estate first. My parents' next door neighbor connected me to Americana Group Realtors. I don't know if you remember them, but
do.
they're now today Berkshire Hathaway.
Yes.
And I was a brokerage secretary for a couple of years before moving up into corporate doing HR and recruiting. And then from there, when I stayed home with my young kids and wanted to get back into it, I was part-time with a realtor, got my license myself, and then decided I wanted to work full-time. And the loan officer that we were working with, Greg Price, said, come work with me. And we partnered up. And that was the beginning of the rest of my career.
Yeah. So when you look back on those early roles and even entry into the business with Greg, um, are there still lessons that you learned early on that still matter today?
For sure, because I attribute my beginning success with the support and the training that I got from him. So partnering up with somebody that is very professional, knows his stuff, is willing to share and support, I think was key for me to be able to know what to look for and what to ask for as I embarked on this very challenging
Yeah.
career.
Very well said. And really for our listeners, that's the number one great piece of advice that you're going to give today. The first piece of advice is really align yourself with a strong mentor, somebody who understands the business. Those early stages and setting that foundation are probably critical to your early success.
Absolutely. I agree.
So people often describe relationships as your superpower. I want to understand that because in my mind, and we have a lot of conversations on this show about AI and the future of the loan officer, but I'm firmly in the camp that this is still a relationship business. Tell me how you think about relationships and how they've driven your success.
That's interesting. I haven't heard that before, but I would agree. I was fortunate enough coming from the real estate side that when I switched over to lending, that all of my friends were in real estate, and to be able to foster the relationship from uh, the business side and to be able to really hone in on what they needed and staying in touch and being front of mind. It's just been something that I think I've just been good at it for years because of my early life and upbringing.
Okay, well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
But you bring up a good point because having friends as real estate agents can cut both ways. You have friends in real estate, but those friends also know you're new to the business. How did you overcome that?
I don't know. I mean, they just trusted me and I was able to perform, and it just snowballed from there. So it was nice actually to be able to get into the business. And I mean, the very first month of my career, I closed 5 loans, and that was from my friends, people that I knew in the industry.
I would guess that it's your confidence that probably had a lot to do with that because let's face it, when you go in, even if you may not know exactly what you're talking about, having that air of confidence puts people at ease. I would bet that did well for you at that point in your career.
I'm going to say I agree because what you don't know, you don't know. And to walk in and say, okay, how do I do this? This is how I do it, and follow the rules and have the support that you need. Then, until you fall flat on your face, you just keep moving forward and go, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And hope
Well,
we never do.
but I want to tie in. You mentioned, kind of growing up, and you grew up as a military brat as they say, right?
Yeah.
Which means constant change. How did moving so often shape the way that you built relationships as you got into this business?
Well, we moved every 2 or 3 years, which meant being in a new classroom, a new school, a new city. Um, and so we're constantly having to make new relationships, but then you're also leaving those relationships. So it was very important to me to be able to stay in touch. So I have friends from everywhere I lived, and I still am in touch with them, whether it's once a year on a Christmas card or twice a year because I include a birthday card or a phone call, or we stay in touch. And of course, this was long before social media or cell phones. We were making phone calls after 11 o'clock at night when long distance charges were a lot lower.
Yeah.
And then it organically becomes even easier to stay in touch as social media comes around and texting comes around. So it's just something that's been kind of ingrained in me by staying in touch with people that I was no longer living in the same city with.
I'm trying to picture. I grew up in a completely I mean, I went from the same elementary school to middle school to high school. I mean, literally the same kids. So I'm trying to picture the challenge and of walking into that new classroom and kind of looking around at who might be my friend. And I imagine that those skills that you learned in elementary, middle school, high school are skills that you actually deploy today to build relationships with new referral partners.
I would tend to agree, and I think I even have a little bit of extra ammo that not everybody has that's been in that situation because I'm one of 7 children, and we're all within 7.5 years, so we really had our own little army everywhere. We went Air Force, sorry, my dad was Air Force, so
Okay.
we had our own little Air Force, vying for your siblings' attention, your parents' attention. I mean, they were very attentive, so I'm just talking about individually between 1 and 7. I think it gives you the basis for the courage to be able to create new relationships because you walk in and say, okay, well, if I can handle those 6 people, I certainly can handle,
Yeah.
finding somebody here I'm going to be able to connect with.
Yeah, you were battle tested, so to speak, right? That's great. So, uh, family's clearly a number one priority for you. Um, I want to learn a little bit more about the 7 siblings, right?
Okay.
And kind of how that shaped your values, and again, kind of, as you began your career and into your mortgage career, the impact of being one of 7. Was it one of 7 or one of 8?
One of 7.
One of 7. So,
So seven children, and then my parents.
where did you fit in that?
I'm 5th. I'm actually, Chris, in the most ideal spot in my family. They're going to be watching this. They know I say this all the time. I'm the youngest of 5 and the oldest of 3.
Yes.
So I like being in being in the first pack, but also the leader of the second pack. So I have always thought, all right, well, I've got the perfect spot. Even if every once in a while I got left behind.
Yeah.
I had the benefit of all of that. So, being in both positions.
Yeah, if you had to pick one thing that really stands out that you has really kind of shaped your career today, what is one lesson you learned being in such a big family?
I think it really has more to do with my father because he's really the OG of girl dad. And, there's 7 of us, but there's 5 girls and 2 boys. And we were there was no differentiation. Like, I knew from the get-go that I could do anything. There was nothing that would hold me back. And they supported me. My dad was just, yeah, doesn't matter. If you're a girl, you can go out and do it. So do it. Whatever it's got to do, whatever it takes, do it.
Yeah, yeah, and in that military kind of mindset, right?
Right.
Just it's even a stronger force, I guess, is what I'm trying to
And
say.
we're kind of like a pack of a family, then we're a pack of being in the Air Force, and then we're a pack as we move. And I think it just draws me to stay to keep my pack,
Mm.
to keep my tribe. And so in business, then those business relationships become a part of my tribe that I've grown up cultivating or keeping. So that's what's important, and that's how I can keep plugging forward.
That's another great, I think, strategy and tactic because so often we get caught up in the transactions and lose sight of really maintaining those relationships clearly.
Mhm.
Weeks go by, you realize I haven't really talked to that referral partner and about just, hey, how are you doing? What's
Right.
going on? Let's meet for, a happy hour somewhere. Just those things that maintain that a real bond between people. And obviously those lessons that you learn are really serving you well today in maintaining those relationships long term.
I agree. I could always do better. But yes, I mean, I like the people I work with and I want to spend time with them and I want to know how they're doing. And I wish the best for them. And it's nice to be able to have that camaraderie when you're also working.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're known as a serious reader. Tell me a little bit about that and how that really helps shape your personal growth.
I am. I love to read. It's the ultimate luxury. I learned that when I first joined my first book club was I thought, oh, I don't have time to read. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I mean, I never stood still. So if laundry had to be done, no, I'm not going to read. If whatever had to be done. But once I joined a book club and had to read the book, then I could stop the world and read and went, I like this. And I really love discussing it. And I really love the community that creates. So, and in a book club, you don't get to pick everything that you read. So it opened up so many pages and stories and self-help and I mean, just everything. I've been exposed to so many things all through book and reading. And it's given me so much strength and growth, whether it's a novel or self-help or a memoir. That's the best.
So what kind of books or ideas, and you can even go back the last few months, but what's resonating with you right now?
I'm actually in the middle of a book that my youngest son recommended, which is How to Know People by David Brooks, and I'm really enjoying it, and I can't wait to sit down with him and discuss details when I'm done. I typically have, in this day and age, you can have the book, the Kindle, or you can listen.
Yeah.
So I usually have like 3 books going at the same time. So I like to have something nonfiction, maybe self-help nonfiction, and then uh, business-wise, I'll get in there every once in a while, and then a novel. So
Wow.
to answer your question, though, I would say it was my favorite. Same as Ever was a really good book that I read. I don't remember the author though. Same as Ever. I really like that, and that was. Very apropos for when we go through challenges and you realize, oh, it's always the same. It's just different numbers. It might be a different concept, but it's always the same. And I'm not going to do a good job of explaining it right now, but that was something that really stuck with me.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got just a very wide perspective and
Right.
very broad spectrum of books that you're always engaged with. We all should be reading more. Let's put it that way.
And everybody can listen to a book. It is the same as reading.
My 15-year-old will agree with you on that, right? Yeah, try getting him to read a book, but he'll listen to one. That's for some reason that works, right? So after 3 decades of being in this business, what keeps you going? What keeps you motivated?
Is it that I'm a masochist? Is it that I continue to love a challenge? I think it goes back to the very beginning of when I struggled with trying to decide if I was going to take the leap into lending. I was concerned that it might be too boring. I was a math major, but I didn't want to do accounting. I wanted something a little more exciting. And I've never been more creatively fed
Mm.
in lending as a loan officer because no loan is the same. And I've been doing it long enough now that I've done multiple loans for the same people, and even their loans aren't the same. Like there's always something that's different and there's always a challenge. So it keeps me on my toes.
I would say every day brings obviously a different challenge, but in terms of what motivates you, that might even change day to day.
For sure.
right? And I think that's what you're speaking to as far as the variety and the different dynamics, right? That
Right.
you face every single day.
Believe me, sometimes I wish they were all the same,
Yeah.
but it would get boring after a while.
Yeah, and now being in the business and I'm right there with you. I started I've been probably 35 years, and the one thing that I find challenging is change.
Mhm.
Right? You and I have seen just even how we physically interact with a loan application has changed from handwriting everything to now really even the customer going online and doing a lot of the work for us. I guess my point is, how do you stay open to change as things evolve?
You really have no choice. You can kind of say, "Okay, I'm not gonna do it that way. I'm gonna be the OG of loan officering, and I'm just gonna keep doing that way," but then you find out that you are missing a whole pool of people, or not able to care for these people the way that they need to be cared for because I'm stuck in the way that I was doing it. And of course, it helps to be a parent because as your children grow up and they get exposed to things, then you get exposed to things. So you learn that change ultimately is good. To answer your question, I think directly is I really have no choice.
Yeah.
Like as things change, I have to either go with the flow or step outside.
Yeah, from my perspective, it doesn't matter what causes or how it happens. As long as it happens, that's what's important.
Right.
And as you talk about the consumer, I think we all agree that you have to meet them where they are.
Right.
And so you're right. From a demographic perspective, younger generations don't want to talk to us. They send me a link, send me so I can upload and that's limited contact. Whereas older folks of our age, we're used to having more of an interaction, right? Again, from my perspective, as long as it happens, I don't care how it
Right.
comes down.
Right. It's it's interesting. I used to make a joke as the transition happened to being so electronic and online that I could run into somebody, literally a car accident, and not know if it was somebody that I had done a loan for. But now it's like, okay, at least I can see them at the closing and say, nice to meet you and congratulations at the same time.
And that's a great point. There are ways that you can still bridge that connection, right? And gap
Yes.
there. 90% of the transaction can be at a distance and handled electronically, but you can still find a way to make that final connection, which I think is very important.
I think so too. I want to meet them, you know. I want to become their friends.
The whole client for life is a cliche in some way, but if you believe in it, that's how you get that. That's how you get to that point in the relationship.
Right.
And I think that's the right approach and the way for us to still deliver a current, efficient process to the customer, which is what
Mhm.
they're looking for, but still have our old school little touch at the end, right?
Right, right. I think you combined all of it. Yes.
So when things get challenging, exhausting, what helps you stay grounded and how do you recharge?
There's a few key factors. Part of it is being prepared in advance, eating well, sleeping well, getting exercise. If I'm fit, then I'm in a better mental space to be able to handle the challenges. But really, it's comes down to support and relationships and being able to confide in my partner, my husband, being able to confide in my colleagues and my friends that I work with, having management support. I mean, it's having the people around me that really help keep me grounded and handle the challenges.
Is that's another sort of tribe, I guess,
Right.
going back to an earlier comment that you made.
Yes, absolutely. It's being surrounded by who is going to lift you up and be able to help you work through the challenges.
Over your career, and I know for me, there were defining moments, and it may be hard to pick them all, but is there anything that you can look back on that really shaped you and your career at any point?
Well, I can say that, 2007 was a big shift, not only in the market, but in how I handle business and relationships and finances, everything. That was a big shift.
So just to put some context there, right? Leading right up to the mortgage crisis, is that
Right,
really the timing
right,
you're referring to?
right. And you think you're doing everything right, and you're like, okay, things probably aren't going to continue at this trajectory. So I'm prepared when it happens, and I thought I was prepared, but what I wasn't prepared for was years of it happening.
Yes.
So that changes one from, okay, I've been thinking I'm doing everything right. Would I go back and change anything? No, I wouldn't have known. If I had known, I probably would have gotten out of the business. But in terms of what's really shaped me, I really am going to continue to go back to having the great support is what just keeps me
Yeah.
going.
Well, I
Yeah.
think, that moment in time, what that you mentioned, 2007. So then it's '08, '09. And as salespeople, we're always looking for, okay, when do things, turn?
Right.
10, 11, right? Yeah. So there were many years of that challenge. And I think that, a lot of us left the business, not us, but a lot
Mhm.
of people in the business. I know here in Nevada, there was at a peak approximately 35,000 licensed loan officers in the state of Nevada. At the very, very bottom of that, there were less than 1,700,
Isn't that crazy?
right? So talk about an exodus.
Right.
And so I think what you're describing there is, and you're right. If you had known how long it would take to get out the other side, you probably would have done something different. But thank goodness you didn't. And
Right.
here we are today. But that was a defining moment for most of us in this business.
Right.
I know for our company, it was to weather that and survive that was huge, and actually a growth moment for the company.
Right.
So I think that's probably very well chosen as a defining moment for probably most of us in the business.
And I even wouldn't take that away because there's so much that you can learn from that. It makes me stronger now. I mean, even after COVID and the shift in the business, this time people would come to me and within the industry and say, don't you wish it were 2007 again? I'm like, no.
So 20 and 21 were also, obviously banner years. That
Right.
was that was it was just an anomaly. 2019 business was challenging heading into that, and then all of a sudden, no one on this planet would have predicted that a pandemic would have created this incredible refinance business.
Correct.
Um, but I think from that were born some bad habits. And I talk about that a lot with people on this show. How did that impact you? Loans falling out of the sky. A lot of loan officers, not only did you have to stop hunting for business, your realtor referral partnerships were sort of less important because you had all this refi business coming in the door that you had to handle. And then on top of it, you couldn't go out and really see people face to face. You were stuck at home. So
Right.
now you're wearing your sweats all day long and you're working from home. And then all of a sudden, just like that, overnight, things change.
Right.
And now you have to shift what you've been doing for the last 2 years and get into a whole new routine. And for some of us, I think that was a challenge. How about for you?
Definitely a challenge. And I had to make some changes, develop accountability partners to keep me in check and get some coaching to get me in check and to pump me up and keep me on track. Yeah, I mean, there was plenty that I was doing right, and then it just goes to the wayside. Plenty that I still did right, even when there were things going to the wayside. And then when the bottom falls, then you're like, okay, is it me?
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the, oh, well, if everybody else is doing bad, then it's not so bad for me. But I also don't want to be alone doing bad.
But one thing you said that I want to make sure we focus on is that it seems as if you were aware of your weaknesses at that moment and that you looked for help to support you in those areas of weakness.
Yes, I did. I did.
And I think that's
Yeah.
big. First
Mm.
of all, just even acknowledging it, because most of us don't like to say, hey, I've got a problem or I'm bad at something, but that you actually looked for help. I think that's commendable.
Well, thank you.
Going back to connection, and even in this day and age of the digital electronic relationship, how do you go about building trust with referral partners and clients quickly and effectively in this fast-paced day and age?
That is a challenge because there's so much noise out there and there's so much online competition and so much misinformation. And if you don't build the trust in advance of all of the competition, all of that noise being thrown at the consumer, then you can lose that relationship. Um, it is a challenge, and I am continuing to work on it to try and create the trust quickly so that it's not just about whatever is seen on the internet.
So you use the word, two words, in advance, which I like because
Mhm.
I talk a lot about the relationship building should start day one. Too often, we wait until the loan closes or until the transaction is over, and then we want to quickly build rapport and the relationship and ask for that next referral. I'm a big believer it starts day one of the transaction,
Right.
and that's my big, heavy approach to making connection and building rapport. Sounds like you take the same approach.
I do. I mean, I try to anyway. I still not always come out on top, but it's my goal and it's what I strive for all the time. And I really lean on my referral partners to support me in that too, so that we're not losing because we're both losing out, right? If somebody succumbs to the noise, then it's a problem for my referral partners too, because now they're dealing with somebody that they don't have trust in or that they have to worry are going to drop the ball or not be able to finish on time or handle it properly with care throughout. So it's to their benefit. I mean, that's why we are partnered up in the first place, because we have that trust and relationship between the two of us. I lean on them to be a part of it too, and I just have to keep performing so that the end result keeps bringing back and building that
It
same relationship.
that next deal. But let's dig a little deeper on that. So you say you lean on your referral partners, but that just doesn't magically happen. Talk to me about the conversation that you're having with them about that particular issue.
It for example, it's obviously I'm skirting around the issue of rate. Like that's really what all the noise is. It's the interest rate, and it baffles me how people will make a decision on that one number alone when there's so many numbers involved in this transaction and they're doing the biggest thing of their life, even if they're doing it for a second or third time. It's still the biggest thing of their life, the biggest purchase, the biggest exposure, the most vulnerable thing that they can do, and they'll hang it all up on a percentage. And not that it shouldn't be fair. And of course, we want to get them the lowest possible, but there's always going to be somebody lower. There's always going to be something out there, whether it's legitimate or not, that is in their face. But I'm not answering your question. The answer to your question is trying to talk to my partners in advance of the referral so that when they have the referral and the buyer is asking about rate, that they have some of the terminology to be able to guide their buyers to not only solely be focused on the interest rate.
Yeah, and that's the dialogue that they should be having day one. Look, I get it. The market really, in my career, drove the intensity of that referral. And what I mean by that is, when business is tough, the last thing any referral partner wants to do is put a hurdle or a speed bump in front of the customer. So they're more likely to acquiesce to the customer going to a competitor because they don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to lose the deal.
Right.
If that agent is busy and businesses, come, then they're going to be strong. Nope, you work with Amy or it's nobody, right? So those things I think ebb and flow. But if you've structured the partnership properly and really cemented that thought process that you just described, which is, hey, I'm the best option for this customer. It might not necessarily be for rate, but it's going to be for the overall experience. It's going to be for the high level of support and overall consultation that I'm able to provide. Those are differentiators that just you can't put a percentage on.
It's true because I'm not in it for just this one transaction. I want to help my referral partners be successful. I want my clients to build generational wealth, not just this one deal.
Yeah.
I want them to think of it in terms of them, their family, their their friends. Like, it's important. I'm a firm believer in real estate.
Yeah.
So if I'm a firm believer in it, I want the same for everybody else. And I've got to be able to educate them and help them reach their financial goals in that regard.
Well, not too long ago, I talked about at times in history, I feel we forget about the American dream. And it's again, I'm going to say it's cliche, it might be cheesy, but ultimately for the vast majority of Americans, it is the only way to really build wealth within their families. Unless you hit the lottery, right? We say it all the time. This is the only way. And I think that there are moments and times where we need to improve the way we sell the American dream. And if you and I believe in it and we understand the importance of it, we should be able to convey that to our clients.
100%.
Yeah, and I think it sometimes it can be a lost art. So hold on to that, right? I think
Right.
it's important. I want to talk just briefly about authenticity. Do you find yourself changing your approach based on the customer? Do you have just sort of a one size fits all? How do you stay authentic in those moments?
I think you can be a chameleon and still be authentic.
Okay, great.
So I think that I can come up, come down, shift side to side, based on personality, based on energy, but I'm always going to come from my heart, from my point of education. Um, I'll always give 100% of me. I think that you can put on a different outfit and still be the same person underneath. Authenticity is a key word that I tell myself all the time, not because I struggle with it, but because it's very important to me.
Yeah. Well, I think we all want to achieve a certain level of respect and that authenticity, I think, is really a big part of that. We don't want to be just a salesperson, right? There's so much more into the role that we play. And obviously you've done a great job at being able to, as you said, move side to side, put on a different outfit, but always be that person.
Right.
As we wrap this up, and again, it's been a great conversation. Thank you for joining me. But people that work with you, whether it's a referral partner or a borrower, what is it that you hope they remember most about you?
That I care, that it's important to me, that I pay attention to the detail, I pay attention to them, and that it matters, that they matter.
Yeah.
That's what's the most important to me.
Well, that definitely shows and shines in your business. You've built a great reputation. People love working with you, and I've just enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. It's
Yeah.
really, really great sharing this time with you.
All right. Thank you.